Welcome to Stuck, Time to Improv. I'm Mary Scott with Business Riff, and I want startups to be wildly successful. Today, we're talking about overwhelm, how to recognize it and what to do about it. My special guest is Deborah Ivanoff, who is the being coach. Thanks for coming, Deb.
Thank you. Thank you, Miriam. I am happy to be here and I want to see startups and entrepreneurs thrive as well. So I'm really glad that you are providing this service for people. It's great.
It's it's a mission. So let's talk about overwhelm. How do startups even recognize it when they're just so busy doing their brand new business?
Well, overwhelm may show up a little bit differently for different people. So it's hard to say these are the three signs of overwhelm, but I'm going to attempt it anyway. I would say the three signs of overwhelm are, I'm just coming up with this right now too, uh, are a feeling of there's too many things to do and I almost can't pick one. They're all equally important. My brain can't focus on one because it's worried about the other. And I'm having a very difficult time like focusing or organizing. And there's also, I would say there's this feeling of it's a force inside of one and it's accompanied by thoughts like, I just can't do it. This isn't going to work. Help, help. It brings out a lot of this, I might as well just give up kind of thoughts because the feeling is such tension and this inability to focus back on one thing. Oftentimes we're holding our breath. So it's another version of that fight, flight, or freeze. We're preparing for some disaster. I don't know. You want to round that out with a couple other things, Mary? You've seen a lot of people and heard a lot of people talking.
Well, it's the difference between there's too much to do, I have to pick something, and feeling like I can't do this, and feeling like I feel terrible that I feel this way. and,
Yes, the
and I
guilt
need
about that.
I need to get it together and do this. And the
Hmm.
unwillingness to ask for help.
Hmm. From my point of view, overwhelm is one of the forms of friction or resistance. I see it as something that we experience that we wouldn't experience if we hadn't already gotten going, right? If we weren't in the process of doing what we wanted to do, if we weren't in the process of changing the way we needed to change to manifest or create or grow ourselves in that way, we wouldn't have the overwhelm.
It may also have to do with there's three different types of entrepreneurs. The ones who are born that way, and they're a little less likely to experience the overwhelm. The ones who are reluctant entrepreneurs, they were doing some job and got downsized and can't actually get another job, so they have to use their skills to start their own business reluctantly. And then there are the accidental entrepreneurs who got so together and moving in some hobby or some other creation, and then they look behind and they go, "Oh my God, I've got a business now."
I'm glad you brought that up, Mary, because it does point to the fact that some of those people may not experience overwhelm. They may experience a different form of resentment or of a resistance. We're talking about overwhelm this morning. And everybody does experience some kind of overwhelm at some time. It's very different what triggers us into that sense of overwhelm. But you're right, the different kinds of entrepreneurs are going to have different experiences, may or may not be overwhelm, and it may be the resistance of change, right?
Yeah.
Or they are going to experience overwhelm very specific to them, to the type of entrepreneur they are. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's talk about some coping skills. Once you've recognized
Let's.
you're in trouble, what's the first thing to think about doing?
I love that. Well, there's the first step right there is just realizing you're in trouble, realizing that things may not be the way they feel they are. They may not be what they appear. And I'm going to cut to the chase. This is my whole work. What I've found is that it's about helping the body. feel safe. And you mentioned the different kind of entrepreneurs, different kinds of people, highly sensitive, more action oriented, more planning oriented, more logical. I mean, there's very many different kinds of people. But cutting to the chase is about really helping the body feel safe because that's why we're having the response. Too much is happening. I don't feel safe. Too much is going on. I'm risking. Something's changing. Something's dangerous. If I can soothe my body, and I already said so much of what happens is that causes us to hold our breath, we're literally suffocating ourselves in that moment. If we can just pause and soften the belly and take one full breath, that can change everything. It can.
Yeah.
If we can take two, that can change even more. If we can have a glass of water and rehydrate, even more. If we can find a way to give ourselves either a nap or a good night, a really good night's sleep, it can change everything because now we're speaking the language of the mechanism that's trying to push us into overwhelm to get our attention. That mechanism wants us to be safe ultimately. So it doesn't want us to change, doesn't want us to do so many things. It wants us to stay the same. So the way we speak its language is we help ourselves feel safe. Now, once we get the body stabilized, we can move on to other things. If there's something in our emotional lives or in our mental lives that need to be taken care of. And all of those, of course, are intertwined, but it can start as simply as just with one breath, one glass of water, one nap, one walk. Walk's another one.
So if you only have 10 minutes, take some breaths, have a drink of
Yes.
water, go for a short walk. And
Yes.
then you can approach the many things you have to do two at a time.
Yes.
Look at the first
Yes.
two. Which one of these needs to be done more urgently? Okay,
Yes.
then match that one up with the next one, which is the most urgent. Then match that up with the next one. And
Yes.
eventually you've winnowed it down two at a time.
We lose sight of needing help. It's okay to need help. We all need help. We're going to get through these times of change by sharing the work, by sharing resources, by sharing information, by sharing cheerleading, by sharing support. That's the way we're going to do it. So I know for a fact for myself that asking is hard, can be challenging, and it can be very rewarding. So, baby steps, practice asking and giving both. This is how we're all going to make it. And for entrepreneurs, more important than ever before, there's no way we can keep track of everything. Of course, we feel overwhelmed. So, let's share the burden with one another. Let's lift each other up.
And the nice thing is that when you actually delegate to someone who you recognize their skill sets are different from yours, when you delegate and bring in a team, you're becoming a much better leader and you're going to be a much more successful business.
Yes, very good point. Very good point. I love that.
So, any other little coping skills people should know, or can we put some information in the comments?
Well, I'll tell you what my trick is. My one biggest trick, I'll share that, is to just stop and say, wow, so much going on up in my brain. I must really be changing. That's what's happening. Things are changing. I am in the process. This doesn't mean something's wrong. It means I'm doing it right.
And start thinking about, oh, I get to do this rather than, oh, I have to do this.
There you go. What a lovely affirmation. I get to do this. I love that.
So thank you so much, Deb Ivanoff,
Thank
the
you.
being coach, for helping us deal with recognizing and dealing with overwhelm. And I'm Mary Scott with Business Riff. I want startups to be wildly successful. And one of the best things you can do to accomplish that is book a call with me at businessriff.com and let's see how we can collaborate. And join us again next time for Stuck, Time to Improv.